3 days later, Ambassador Helen Cross sat in the neutral meeting station that mediator Yilessa had arranged. The station was small but comfortable, floating in empty space exactly halfway between the human and alien fleets. Helen had been chosen as humanity's top diplomat because she was known for staying calm under pressure. Right now, she needed all of that skill. Across the table from her sat High Chancellor Quinara, the supreme leader of this sector of the Empire. The alien was tall and thin, with purple skin and 4 arms. Her species looked somewhat like humans, but her eyes were much larger and completely black. "Ambassador Cross," Quinara said in careful English, "we must speak honestly about your people's intentions." Helen nodded. "I agree completely, Chancellor. But first, I think there are some misunderstandings we need to clear up." Mediator Yilessa floated between them in her transparent sphere. Her jellyfish-like body pulsed with gentle light as she spoke. "Both sides have agreed to share information openly. Ambassador Cross, please explain why human ships are in Empire space." Helen pulled out a data pad and showed it to Quinara. "Chancellor, our ship made a navigation error. We were supposed to be mapping empty space in our own territory. Instead, we accidentally jumped into your space." Quinara's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Navigation error?" "Yes. Our young officer made a calculation mistake. Instead of jumping 6 light years, we jumped 60 light years. It was completely accidental." Cultural advisor Max Turner, who was sitting next to Helen, added, "Chancellor, humans make mistakes just like any other species. We're not perfect." Quinara looked confused. "But the legends say humans are warriors who never fail in battle." Helen and Max exchanged glances. "This was the heart of the problem." "Chancellor," Helen said gently, "I think we need to talk about these legends. What exactly have you heard about humans?" Quinara straightened in her chair. "Everyone knows that. Humans are immortal fighters who can destroy entire civilizations. Your ships use weapons that ignore our physics. Your warriors never surrender and never feel fear." Max leaned forward. "Chancellor, may I ask where these stories come from?" "They are ancient knowledge, passed down through generations. My grandfather fought against human pirates in the Outer Ring Wars." Helen looked at her notes. "The Outer Ring incidents happened about 80 years ago. Can you tell us what your grandfather said about them?" "He said that human ships attacked trading vessels with primitive weapons, but somehow they won every battle. Even when their ships were damaged, the humans kept fighting. They used tactics. That made no sense, but somehow worked." Max nodded slowly. "Chancellor, those were pirates and smugglers. They weren't official human military forces, and they were fighting for their lives, so they used desperate tactics." "Desperate tactics?" Helen explained. "When humans are in danger, we sometimes do things that seem crazy to other species. We take risks that others wouldn't take, but we're not immortal or invincible. We just don't give up easily." Quinara looked thoughtful. "So humans can be killed?" "Of course," Helen said. "We get sick, we get injured, and we die just like anyone else. We need food and water and sleep." Through the meeting room's windows, they could see both fleets in the distance. Hundreds of alien ships on one side, 5 human ships on the other. Mediator Yilessa spoke up. "Chancellor Quinara, would you like to see a demonstration of actual human capabilities?" "What do you mean?" Helen activated a communication link to Admiral Stone. "Admiral, could you have one of your ships run a standard combat simulation? Something that shows our real abilities?" "Of course, Ambassador." On the screens around the meeting room, they watched as one of the human frigates began a training exercise. The ship's weapons fired harmless energy bursts at simulated targets. Its movements were smooth and professional, but nothing that seemed superhuman. Quinara watched in amazement. "That's it? Those are your weapons?" "Yes," Helen replied. "They're effective, but they follow the same physical laws as everyone else's weapons." Max pulled up more data on his pad. "Chancellor, I think the problem is that every unexplained event in your space gets blamed on humans. If a ship disappears, people assume humans destroyed it. If a colony fails, people think humans attacked it. But we have records of human invasions. Could you show us those records? Quinara activated her own data device. She showed them reports of various incidents over the past 50 years. As Helen and Max read through them, a pattern emerged. Chancellor, Helen said carefully, these incidents all happened in different parts of the galaxy. Some of them happened at the same time, but hundreds of light years apart. For humans to be responsible for all of these, we would need thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. How many ships do you actually have? Quinara asked. Max consulted his records. In this entire region of space, humans have maybe 50 vessels total. Most of them are cargo ships and research vessels like the Explorer. Quinara's large eyes widened. 50 ships? But our intelligence estimates suggested thousands. Your intelligence was wrong, Helen said gently. We're a small, spacefaring civilization. We've only been traveling between stars for about 100 years. Mediator Yelessa pulsed with blue light. Chancellor, it appears that fear has caused your people to overestimate the human threat. Quinara sat back in her chair, all four arms drooping. So the great human empire that we've feared for decades doesn't exist? We do have a government, Helen said, but it's not an empire. We call it the Human Federation. We have about 30 colonized worlds and maybe 200 million people spread across them. 200 million? Quinara seemed shocked. Our sector alone has 50 billion people. Max nodded. Chancellor, you could probably defeat humanity in an open war if you wanted to. But we don't want war. We want to explore space and learn about other species. Like the crew of the Explorer? Exactly. They were studying stars and planets, not planning invasions. Quinara was quiet for a long moment. Then she began to laugh. It was a strange sound, like wind chimes in a breeze. We evacuated 12 entire worlds because we thought 5 research ships were an invasion fleet? Helen smiled. It seems that way. And we gathered over 1,000 warships to fight 50 humans who were lost and trying to get home? Yes, Quinara laughed harder. This is the most embarrassing military crisis in Empire history. Mediator Yelessa glowed with warm yellow light. It is also an opportunity. Both of your civilizations could benefit from peaceful contact. Helen leaned forward. We would very much like to be friends with the Empire, Chancellor. We could share knowledge, trade goods, and learn from each other. Quinara nodded, her laughter fading to a smile. I think that would be much better than living in fear of mythical human warriors. Max pulled out a bottle of water and took a drink. Quinara watched him with fascination. You really do need water to survive? Every day, Max said. And food, and sleep. We're probably the most ordinary species you'll ever meet. Somehow, Quinara said, that's more reassuring than anything else you could have told me. Helen activated her communication link again. Admiral Stone, please inform Captain Morrison that he's free to return home, and tell him his navigation. Officer is going to become famous as the person who made first contact with an alien civilization. Will do, Ambassador. Though I think Amy would prefer to be famous for something else. 2 weeks later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the newly established Trade Station Alpha, watching human and alien ships working together to build humanity's first joint diplomatic facility. Ambassador Cross and Chancellor Quinara had signed a friendship treaty the day before. Amy Brooks joined him at the window. Captain, do you think this will really work? Humans and aliens cooperating? Jake watched an alien construction ship carefully position a section of the station while a human engineering vessel provided technical support. I think it will, Amy. We might have gotten lost, but we found something much more valuable than new stars to catalog. What's that? Proof that the universe is big enough for all of us. Amy smiled as she watched the two species working side by side. I guess making mistakes isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes, Jake said, the best discoveries happen when you end up somewhere you never planned to go. Admiral Vex Tar paced around the command center of Imperial Station Nexus 7. His reptilian scales were darker than usual, a sign of stress that everyone in the room could see. The massive space station served as headquarters for the Fourth Fleet, and right now it was in complete chaos. "Report!" Vextar growled to Captain Zordan, whose crystalline body was flickering with nervous energy. "Admiral, the human ship appeared without warning in Sector 7. My patrol ships detected it during routine scanning operations. The moment we realized what it was, I ordered immediate withdrawal of all units." General Kelanoth stepped forward. Her insect-like body moved with quick, jerky motions that showed her agitation. As a member of the hive mind species, she could feel the fear of thousands of her people across the sector. "Captain Zordan, describe the ship," she clicked in her mechanical voice. "Medium-sized, Admiral. Perhaps 300 meters long. It appeared to be scanning our positions, likely gathering intelligence for a larger attack force." Ambassador Felhari raised one of her 6 arms. Her blue skin had turned pale, another sign of fear among her people. "Have we confirmed it's actually human?" Vextar nodded grimly. "The energy signatures match the old records perfectly. There's no doubt." The room fell silent. Every species represented in the command center had heard the stories. Some had lived through encounters with humans decades ago. Others had only heard the legends passed down through generations. "Sir," said a young officer at a communication station, "we're receiving reports from across the sector. Multiple civilian ships are requesting immediate evacuation assistance." Vextar closed his eyes. This was exactly what he had feared would happen someday. "How many?" 17 colony worlds have declared emergency status. The commercial shipping lanes are shutting down. 3 asteroid mining operations have been abandoned. General Kelanoth's antennae twitched rapidly. "Admiral, my people are feeling panic from systems as far as 30 light years away. The fear is spreading faster than our communication networks." Ambassador Felhari looked at the tactical display showing the sector. Red warning symbols were appearing across dozens of systems. "We need to make a decision quickly. Do we fight, or do we run?" "Neither option is good," Vextar said. He turned to address the room. "I want every senior officer who has studied human warfare to give me their assessment." An elderly officer stepped forward. His species looked somewhat like a walking tree, with bark-like skin and branch-like arms. "Admiral, I've spent 40 years studying the human conflicts. Based on historical data, a single human ship is never alone. They work in coordinated groups." "How many ships should we expect?" Kelanoth asked. "The old battles show they prefer overwhelming force. If one ship is here for reconnaissance, the main fleet could be anywhere from 50 to 500 vessels." Gasps filled the room. Even Admiral Vextar felt his blood run cold. 500 human warships would be enough to destroy everything in this sector. "Sir," another officer reported, "we're getting confirmation from long-range sensors. The human ship is definitely conducting detailed scans of our defensive positions." Captain Zordan's crystalline body pulsed with red light. "Admiral, I recommend we begin immediate evacuation of all non-essential personnel. My grandfather fought humans during the Outer Ring Wars. He told me they never show mercy to anyone who opposes them." Vextar had heard those same stories. Humans who fought with primitive weapons against enemies with advanced technology and somehow won. Humans who never surrendered, even when facing impossible odds. Humans who turned every defeat into a learning experience for their next attack. "What about the peace treaties?" Felhari asked hopefully. "There are no peace treaties," Vextar replied. "Humans don't negotiate. They either ignore you or they conquer you. There's no middle ground. A communication officer turned toward them with panic in his voice. Sir, we just lost contact with 3 patrol ships that were monitoring the human vessel. They're simply gone. The room erupted in worried voices. Kayla Noth's hive mind connection was spreading fear across multiple worlds. Her people were preparing for the worst. Admiral, said the tree-like officer, historical records show that humans can disable ships without leaving debris. They have weapons that can make vessels simply disappear. What kind of weapons? Zordan asked. Unknown. Human technology has always been difficult to understand. They use strange combinations of primitive and advanced systems. Their weapons work in ways that don't follow normal physics. Vextar walked to the main display screen. It showed the entire sector with the human ship as a small red dot in the center. Around that dot, dozens of green symbols representing their own ships were moving away as fast as possible. Sir, reported another officer, we have confirmation that the human ship is moving. It's heading toward the commercial shipping lanes. They're going after civilian targets first, Kelenoth said with horror. Just like in the old stories. Ambassador Felhari looked at her datapad. I'm reading reports of mass panic on 7 worlds. People are abandoning cities and heading for the rural areas. They think the humans will target population centers. They're probably right, Vextar said quietly. Humans are known for psychological warfare. They want the civilian population to fear them. A new officer entered the command center, running as fast as his 4 legs could carry him. Admiral, urgent news from Intelligence Division. They've been monitoring human communication frequencies for years. There's been increased chatter in their networks over the past few weeks. What kind of chatter? Vextar demanded. Military. Preparations, sir. Large ship movements. Resource allocations for extended campaigns. All the signs point to a major offensive operation. The room fell silent again. If human intelligence had been preparing for weeks, then this wasn't a random encounter. This was a planned invasion. How long do we have? Felhari asked. The intelligence officer checked his notes. Based on historical patterns, humans typically send advanced scouts 1 to 3 days before their main attack. If this ship arrived today, we could see the main fleet as early as tomorrow. General Kelenoth turned to Admiral Vextar. Sir, I recommend immediate evacuation of all civilians from this sector. My ships can begin transport operations within the hour. Agreed, Vextar said. He turned to address the entire command center. All civilian populations are to be evacuated immediately. Military installations will be abandoned except for essential monitoring equipment. We're pulling back to defensive positions in the core worlds. What about resistance? Captain Zordan asked. Vextar looked at him with tired eyes. Have you read the reports from the Outer Ring Wars? 3 different species tried to resist human expansion. None of them exist anymore. The reality of their situation settled over the room like a heavy blanket. They were dealing with humans, and humans were unlike any other species in the galaxy. They didn't follow the normal rules of warfare or diplomacy. Sir, said the communication officer, should we try to contact the human ship? Maybe we can negotiate. No, Vextar said firmly. Human psychology doesn't work that way. Any attempt at communication will be seen as either weakness or a trap. Our best chance is to avoid contact entirely and hope they lose interest. As if to prove his point, alerts began sounding throughout the command center. The human ship had just increased its scanning intensity. Whatever it was looking for, it was getting closer to finding it. Admiral Vextar looked around at his officers. Each represented a different species, different worlds, different cultures. But right now, they all shared the same expression of fear. They were about to face humanity, and none of them expected to survive the encounter. The data transfer between the curator's ship and the Horizon's edge continued for hours. Jake and his crew found themselves processing information that should have driven them insane, but instead, it felt like pieces of a puzzle finally fitting together in their minds. They were learning about the true structure of space and time, about hidden dimensions that folded through reality like invisible rivers. Helen was the first to fully understand what they were being offered. Her scientific mind grasped the implications faster than the others. We are being given a choice, are we not? We can accept this knowledge and everything that comes with it, or we can walk away and pretend this never happened. The curator had become completely human in appearance now. It looked like someone who could have been born on Earth, with features that seemed familiar and trustworthy. The choice must be made freely. My creators learned long ago that forcing evolution on a species leads only to destruction and madness. If humanity accepts this burden, it must be because you truly want to help protect all life in the galaxy. Tony had been monitoring the changes happening to their ship's systems. His engineering equipment showed readings that should have been impossible. Captain, our computers are already designing technologies that break every law of physics I know. We have plans for engines that can travel faster than light without entering hyperspace, energy sources that draw power directly from empty space, weapons that can disrupt the fabric of reality itself. But Amy was seeing something darker in the streams of information flowing through her communication systems. The data included warnings and terrible knowledge about what was coming for the galaxy. There is a cost to all this, is there not? This knowledge comes with a price that we need to understand. The curator's expression became serious and sad. Understanding the true nature of reality means you can never again live in comfortable ignorance. Your species will see threats that others cannot perceive. You will face responsibilities that no other civilization can share. You will become lonely guardians, protecting species who may never understand or appreciate what you do for them. Marcus spoke up. His military training focused on the practical problems they would face. What happens if we say no? What happens to everyone else when these cosmic threats arrive? The curator gestured to the displays around them, which now showed images of dead galaxies floating in the void of space. Without guardians, this galaxy will face the same fate that my creator's galaxy faced long ago. Not death, but something worse. Complete erasure from existence itself, as if entire civilizations never existed at all. The other species have weapons and technology to defend against normal threats, but what approaches cannot be fought with conventional tools. Jake looked at his crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his own heart. This was why humanity had reached for the stars in the first place. They had always been explorers and protectors, willing to face unknown dangers to help others. But this choice was bigger than anything humans had ever faced before. If we accept this responsibility, Jake said carefully, what happens to us personally? Do we stop being human? The curator's smile was warm and reassuring. You become more human than you ever imagined possible. The ability to hold contradictory ideas, to imagine impossible solutions, to hope when all logic says you should despair. These traits that make you human will be amplified and strengthened. You will retain everything that makes you who you are while gaining the tools to protect not just your own species, but all life in the galaxy. Helen felt the knowledge flowing through her mind like a gentle river. She could suddenly understand scientific concepts that had puzzled humanity for centuries. The mathematics that governed the birth and death of stars made perfect sense to her now. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, she felt excited about the discoveries that lay ahead. Tony was experiencing something similar with engineering knowledge. His mind was filled with designs for machines that seemed like magic, but he understood exactly how they worked. Engines that could fold space around a ship and travel vast distances instantly. Shields that could protect entire planets from cosmic disasters. Tools that could repair damage to reality itself. Amy found herself connected to communication networks that spanned not just the galaxy, but multiple dimensions. She could hear the whispers of civilizations in distant galaxies and the songs that newborn stars sang as they came to life. The universe was alive with voices, and she was learning to understand the language of existence itself. Marcus felt his protective instincts expanding beyond his crew and his species to include all forms of life threatened by the cosmic horrors, lurking in the spaces between realities. His tactical mind was now processing strategies on galactic scales, preparing for wars against enemies that existed in multiple dimensions at the same time. But even as they gained this incredible knowledge, they all remained fundamentally human. Jake could still feel his love for his crew and his concern for Earth. Helen was still excited by scientific discovery. Tony still wanted to build things that would help people. Amy still wanted to connect with others and share information. Marcus still wanted to protect the innocent. The curator watched them process the transformation with satisfaction. This is why your species was chosen. Any other race would have either rejected the knowledge as too dangerous or been consumed by it completely. Humans can accept cosmic responsibility while keeping their essential humanity intact. Jake felt the moment of choice approaching like a storm on the horizon. The decision he made in the next few minutes would determine not just the fate of his crew, but the future of every living being in the galaxy. The weight of that responsibility was enormous, but it felt right somehow. Humans had always stepped up when the universe needed heroes. What exactly do we need to do? Jake asked. If we accept this responsibility, what are the next steps? The curator's form began to glow with soft light as it prepared to give them the final piece of the puzzle. You must choose to merge your consciousness with the ship's systems, not lose yourselves but become something greater. You will become the first of a new kind of guardian, able to perceive threats across multiple dimensions and respond with technologies that transcend the normal limits of physics. The choice hung in the air between them like a physical weight. Around them, the ship continued its gentle transformation, becoming more familiar and comfortable with each passing moment. It was waiting for humanity to decide its own fate and the fate of the galaxy. Jake looked at each member of his crew, one last time before making the decision that would change everything. Jake's decision came not from careful thinking or long calculations, but from something deeper inside him. It was the same feeling that had driven humans to cross dangerous oceans, climb impossible mountains, and reach for distant stars, when everyone said it could not be done. We accept, Jake said, his voice clear and strong. Humanity accepts the responsibility to protect the galaxy. The moment those words left his mouth, everything changed. The curator's glowing form dissolved into streams of liquid light that flowed toward each member of the boarding party. Jake felt the light enter his body, but instead of pain or fear, he felt a sense of coming home to something he had always been meant to become. His consciousness expanded like a flower opening to the sun. Suddenly, Jake could perceive not just the ship around him, but the entire star system they were in. He could feel the gravitational pull of distant planets and sense the solar wind flowing from the nearby star. His awareness stretched out further, touching the edges of other star systems light years away. Helen gasped as her mind was flooded with scientific knowledge that spanned millions of years. She could suddenly see the quantum strings that held reality together like invisible threads. She understood the mathematics that governed how universes were born and how they died. But instead of overwhelming her, the knowledge felt like remembering things she had always known but somehow forgotten. Tony felt his engineering mind connect directly with the ship's incredible systems. He could understand technologies that made human science look like stone tools compared to modern computers. But rather than feeling small or inadequate, he felt excited by all the amazing machines he would help humanity build. He could see designs for starships that could travel between galaxies and tools that could repair damaged planets. Amy found herself connected to communication networks that reached across dimensions she had never imagined existed. She could hear the songs of civilizations in distant galaxies and feel the pulse of energy that connected all living things. The universe was full of voices speaking in languages of light and thought, and she was becoming fluent in the deepest language of existence itself. Marcus felt his desire to protect others expand beyond anything he had ever experienced. His tactical mind was now processing strategies that covered entire galaxies, preparing for wars against enemies that existed in 11 dimensions at the same time. He could sense threats moving through the dark spaces between realities, and he knew exactly how to fight them. But even as they gained these incredible new abilities, they all remained completely human. Jake still felt love for his crew and concern for Earth. Helen was still excited by scientific discovery and wanted to learn more. Tony still enjoyed building things that would help people live better lives. Amy still wanted to connect with others and share what she learned. Marcus still felt the need to protect innocent people from harm. The curator's voice spoke one final time, but now it came from within their own thoughts rather than from outside. The ship is yours now, as is all the knowledge of my creators. But remember always that you are still human. That is your greatest strength, not a weakness to overcome. Use your humanity to find solutions that pure logic and advanced technology cannot provide. As the transformation finished, Jake felt the massive ship responding to his thoughts and desires. It was no longer an alien vessel that had rejected other species for thousands of years. Now it was an extension of humanity's reach into the cosmos, a tool that would help them protect all life in the galaxy. He could sense other ships like this one scattered across the galaxy, ancient guardians waiting for crews who could handle their incredible power. "Captain Morrison, this is Lisa calling from the horizon's edge," came a worried voice over their communication system. "You have been silent for 6 hours. Please respond with a status report." Jake smiled as he looked at his transformed crew. They still looked exactly like the humans they had always been, but now there was something more behind their eyes. A cosmic awareness burned there like stars, knowledge of wonders and terrors that spanned the universe. "Patch me through to Earth Command, Lisa. Tell them we have found humanity's new purpose among the stars." As they prepared to return to their own ship, Helen noticed something remarkable happening to the alien vessel around them. The ship was changing again, but this time it was becoming something that was both human and something greater. The impossible angles and twisted corridors were reshaping themselves into clean lines and familiar spaces. The hull was taking on the appearance of brushed steel, rather than the light-absorbing darkness it had shown before. "It is learning from us," Helen realized with wonder in her voice. "The ship is not just giving us alien technology. It is helping us create something new, something that combines human creativity with cosmic knowledge." The vessel that had terrified and rejected every other species in the galaxy had finally found its perfect crew. And humanity, the young species that had always dreamed of reaching the stars and making a difference, had found its destiny as the guardians of all who shared the vast darkness of space. In the days that followed their return to human space, news of the discovery spread like wildfire through every human colony and space station. When people learned that ancient guardian ships were choosing human crews, volunteers began lining up at recruitment centers across human space. Young men and women who had always dreamed of adventure among the stars now had a chance to protect entire civilizations. The other alien species in the galaxy watched with amazement as the ships that had rejected them for millennia began accepting human crews. Some were jealous. Others were relieved that someone was finally able to handle the responsibility. But all of them began to look at humanity with new respect and sometimes fear. Jake and his crew became the first of many human guardians. They traveled between star systems in their transformed ship, watching for signs of the cosmic threats that only they could perceive and fight. They discovered that the universe was far more dangerous and wonderful than anyone had imagined, filled with wonders that inspired hope and horrors that required constant vigilance. But they faced these challenges as humans, with human hearts and human determination. They brought hope to species that had given up, found solutions to problems that seemed impossible, and protected civilizations that never knew they were in danger. The age of human guardianship had begun, and the universe would never be the same. In the vast darkness between the stars, ancient evil stirred and began to take notice of the new guardians. The real test of humanity's worthiness was just beginning. The metal figure of the curator became more solid and human-like as it continued to speak with Jake and his crew. Its face now looked like it could belong to any person walking down a street on Earth, but its eyes held the wisdom and sadness of someone who had lived for thousands of years. "You want to know what this means for your species," the curator said, reading the question in Jake's mind before he could speak it aloud. "The answer is both wonderful and terrible. You will gain knowledge and power beyond your current understanding, but you will also carry burdens that no other species can share." Helen moved closer to one of the floating displays that surrounded them. The alien writing was now mixed with English words and numbers that she could read. "These readings show technologies that should not be possible, engines that can travel faster than light without using hyperspace, energy sources that tap directly into the fabric of space itself." The curator nodded and gestured toward the displays. "My creators mastered these technologies millions of years ago. They learned to manipulate the basic forces that hold reality together. But with that knowledge came the understanding of how fragile everything really is. Images began to form in the air around them. Jake saw star systems that looked normal from a distance, but when the view moved closer, he realized they were completely empty. Not destroyed by war or natural disaster, but simply gone. Where planets and stars should have been, there was nothing but empty space. "This is what the devourer swarms leave behind," the curator explained. "They do not blow up planets or burn them to ash. They consume the very concept of those worlds ever existing. When they are finished, the universe itself forgets that those places were ever real." Marcus had seen many battlefields in his military career, but these images made his blood run cold. "How do you fight something like that?" "You cannot fight them with guns or missiles or even nuclear weapons," the curator replied. "They exist partially outside of normal reality. To battle them, you need weapons that can reach into the spaces between dimensions. You need technology that works with the fundamental rules of existence itself." Amy looked up from her communication, equipment with confusion on her face. "But why us? Why humans? We have only been in space for 50 years. There are alien civilizations that have been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Surely they would be better choices for this responsibility." The curator's metal body shifted to match Amy's posture and stance. It was learning from them constantly, becoming more human with every moment. Those ancient civilizations are exactly the problem. They have become rigid in their thinking. They see the universe in fixed ways and cannot adapt when reality changes around them. More images appeared, showing different alien species that Jake recognized from diplomatic meetings and trade agreements. The bug-like Zephyrians, the crystal beings of the Consortium, the gas cloud creatures called Void Walkers. All of them were advanced and intelligent, but the curator was right about something. They all seemed locked into specific ways of thinking and acting. When the Zephyrians encounter something new, they analyze it according to their understanding of biology and chemistry, the curator continued. When the crystalline consortium faces a problem, they solve it with pure logic and mathematics. The Voidwalkers use their ability to phase through matter to avoid challenges rather than confront them directly. Helen was beginning to understand. But humans approach problems differently. We use logic and emotion together. We can believe in things that contradict each other. We imagine solutions that should not work, and then we make them work anyway. Exactly, the curator said, and for the first time, Jake heard something like excitement in its voice. Humans write stories about heroes who cannot possibly win, and then they find ways to win anyway. You believe in hope, even when all evidence says you should despair. This mental flexibility is what makes you capable of handling paradox. Tony's voice came through their communicators again. Captain, our computer systems are integrating with the alien technology, but it is not taking over our systems. Instead, it is creating something new. Our artificial intelligence is learning to process information in ways that were impossible before. The curator gestured to the displays around them, which were now showing technical diagrams that seemed to shift between alien designs and human engineering concepts. Your technology and mine are combining to create something that neither could achieve alone. Human creativity guided by cosmic knowledge. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a heavy coat. If we accept this knowledge and these responsibilities, what happens to the rest of humanity? What happens to Earth? Nothing changes immediately, the curator assured him. This knowledge will spread slowly through your species. Some humans will volunteer to cruise ships like this one and patrol the galaxy for threats. Others will remain on Earth and live normal lives. But all of humanity will benefit from the technologies we share. Marcus asked the question that had been bothering him since they boarded the ship. What happens to us? The crew members who are here right now? Do we become something other than human? The curator's expression became gentle, almost fatherly. You will become more human than you have ever been. The traits that make your species special will be enhanced and strengthened. Your ability to hope, to adapt, to find solutions where none should exist. These qualities will grow stronger, not weaker. Amy had been monitoring the data streams flowing between the ship and their computers. The knowledge transfer is accelerating. I can feel information entering my mind, but it does not hurt. It feels like remembering things I had forgotten rather than learning something completely new. Helen was experiencing the same thing. Scientific concepts that had puzzled her for years were suddenly becoming clear. She could see how the fundamental forces of physics connected to each other in ways that human science had never suspected. It is like someone is turning on lights in rooms I did not know existed in my own mind. The curator smiled, and the expression looked completely natural on its now human face. That is because this knowledge was always meant for species like yours. My creators designed these concepts to be understood by minds that could think flexibly and creatively. You are not learning alien science. You are discovering the science that your own species was destined to master. Jake looked around at his crew and saw the same mixture of wonder and determination in their eyes that he felt in his own heart. They were being offered the chance to help protect the entire galaxy from threats that most species could not even perceive. It was exactly the kind of impossible challenge that humans had always risen to meet. What do we need to do? Jake asked. The curator's answer would determine the future of humanity and every other species in the galaxy. The ancient intelligence had been waiting 14,000 years for this moment, and now the choice was in human hands.